Tuning you in now to the LBX Show with your host, Brandon Wiley. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire.
All right, well, welcome everybody to the LBX Show. I'm your host, Brandon Wiley, and this is our New Year's episode. Happy New Year, everyone. We have a great full show lined up for you today. It is a full-packed show. So we're going to dive right into some news you should know, where I will review and grade my predictions for 2025. That was a fun one because we get to go back and review, okay, what did I say in 2025? What did I get right? What did I get wrong? And that's a lot of fun. And, you know, I got some stuff right. And I got some stuff way wrong. So it's all right. And then we're going to roll into Open and Shut with Kevin Williams. We're going to review, obviously, all the openings and closing trends from the last 2 weeks since we were off for a week over the holidays. And then Adam Pratt's going to give us a 2025 year in review from the amusement front with Arcade Corner. Then we'll jump into a promo pro tips with Chuck DeMonte. He's going to discuss how to set up yourself in 2026 with 4 trends in business operations and marketing. And then finally, the moment I know you've all been waiting for, I will give my 2026 predictions and see if I can beat my 2025 grade. So with that being said, let's dive right into some news you should know. All right. So as we've talked about the last few weeks, we have IAAPA's FEC Summit coming up February 1st to the 3rd in Glendale, Arizona. I would say my backyard, but not quite. It's like 45 minutes that direction. So I will be staying out at the hotel and not driving back and forth. But I'm looking forward to it because it is going to be a great one. We've got a great keynote speaker in Libby Gill. There's going to be lots of other educational content. We're going to be traveling around and seeing a couple of cool places. Pecan Lake Entertainment is pretty fun. Check out Fat Cat's a Cinettainment location. And then there'll be another location to be announced soon. I'm also going to be involved with I'm just going to be playing. I'm not involved in any meaningful way. But I'm going to be playing the Wacky Golf event that's benefiting the IAAPA Foundation for the FEC Foundation Scholarship. And it is a separate ticket, so make sure to grab that because it's on Sunday. So if you're only going to get there on Sunday, you're not going to be able to play. So you might want to come in on Saturday or get in really early Sunday morning. But looking forward to that Wacky Golf event. And so that is really the only actual news that you should know right now, because I'm going to jump into my 2025 prediction review. All right, so my original predictions were at the end of the show, as usual, and this was the LBX Show number 10. If you want to go back and listen, it's number 10 on January 5th, 2025. You can find it on YouTube, podcast platforms, etc. Or you can just listen to this. I'm going to just go through it here. So, all right. The way that I've handled predictions typically is I do a high, a medium, and a low, and I do 2 of each. So a high is basically, I think it's pretty much 80% or more certainty. Here, we can get rid of her. Let's just go do this. There we go. All right, no more Libby Gill. Okay, so 80% is basically 80% or higher is what I think. It's like I think this is going to happen. That's my prediction. Medium is 50-50. It might happen, it might not. Around 50% probability of happening. And then low prediction is sometimes just the long Hail Mary that I throw out there, and it's like 20% or lower. I think this is actually going to happen. A lot of what I do in my low predictions is these are things that I actually think should happen and I want to see happen, but they may or may not happen for a number of reasons. And so I put it as a low prediction. All right. So for my high prediction, 80% or better, I said Japan amusement comes to the US. This means cranes, gashapon, car battlers, etc. And you know what? I'll say, if you've been watching all the openings and shuts, and if you've listened to any of our sound offs with Kevin Williams, you know that I absolutely 100% fucking nailed this one. Genda, and the major reason is that Genda has made a major growth into the US market through primarily acquisitions, but also bringing in some of their own brands, like Geico brands, coming into the US market. And they have made a massive push. And as a result of that, we've seen the new wave crane machines, a large number of independent operators opening up their own new wave crane facilities in shopping centers, in strip malls, etc. We've seen gashapon really exploding as well. We've seen Round1 continue their expansion. They're a Japanese-based chain, bringing in a lot of their influence as well. And so as a result, the rest of the market has had to maintain and keep up. And so, I will say I give myself an A, maybe not an A plus, but pretty damn near an A plus on that one. So, all right, I think I nailed that. The next one is on the high prediction side for 2025 was that competitive socializing venues will overtake traditional multi-attraction FEC new builds this year. And I did not include active play in that. So active play meaning trampoline parks, adventure parks, etc. I didn't include that because I really felt like if active play was included, then you would still see like the quote unquote traditional FEC model so be higher than the competitive socializing venues. But again, also nailed this one as evident through all the open and shuts of the last year and just the overall the data that we collect as a part of that process. The competitive socializing venues, social competition venues, 100% new builds overtook the traditional multi-attraction FEC. When I say traditional multi-attraction FEC, it's like some sort of anchor, a bowling anchor or a go-karting anchor or something then with an arcade amusement mix, as well as then some other ancillary attractions, laser tag, mini golf, etc. Now, you could argue, well, if it has mini golf, then if it has mini golf and a strong F&B and maybe one other competitive socializing attraction, then that would be considered a competitive socializing venue. A Holy Moly, for example, or a Putt Shack or a Pop Stroke. These are competitive socializing venues. These are not traditional FECs. So 100%, we have seen a significant increase in the number of competitive socializing venues that have opened. And so I also will give myself actually an A plus on that one. So far so good, doing really, really well with the high predictions, 80% and higher. I think I've nailed both of those with at least an A average there. All right, on the medium predictions, this is where things start to go off the rails a little bit here. So for medium predictions, again, 50-50. The first one I said is that DMB, Dave & Buster's, will launch a new brand. And the reason for this, give some background, and you can go back and listen to the show. I'm not going to give all of the reason, but they were really beginning to, make this move into the social bays, and Kevin and I were going back and forth on some of the different sound offs that they were struggling to gain the traction on the social bays that I think they really needed to, and that they really should have branched off this social bay and social competitive socializing concept into its own concept, into its own brand. And we made a joke or hypothesis like it would be DMB social or something like that. Well, I definitely missed this one. That didn't happen. I still believe they should, but instead they really actually decided to go backwards. They decided to revert their locations back to their existing mix. Yes, they still have social bays in some of their locations, but they're actually beginning to pull some of that out. They're certainly not including it in their new builds. They've really gone back, and with their new leadership in place at DNB, actually, which also happened this last year, they are going back to quote unquote what they know best, which is I guess sports bar, mediocre food, and arcades. So that's what they know best, I guess. All right. So I definitely missed that one, and but they did give up on their social bays, so I'll give myself a C- on this one. I don't think I totally failed in the sense that if they were continuing to go into the social bays but keep it all under one, I would give myself an F. But the fact that they're actually reverting means that yes, we had a certain call, like this just isn't working, this mix on together, this arcade, sports bar, and social bay thing isn't working, and so I'll give myself a C- on that one. And then the second one was of the medium predictions was that there was an oversaturation of M&S in VR and mini golf, and that we would see a major consolidation. So M&S is manufacturer supplier. So there's just way too many manufacturer suppliers in VR, different VR companies, and same thing in the mini golf side. Just like fucking everybody was doing mini golf. Like everybody's got their own mini golf concept, and so I just said that there'd be some major consolidation. I think I nailed this one for sure on the VR side. And really what we saw is that Hero Zone came out on top as the big winner there, but significant acquisition, consolidation, some companies going out of business, some companies getting acquired. But Hero Zone really was the big acquirer, and they ended up the winner of this consolidation. And I don't think it's done. I think it will continue actually through this next year as we really begin to see shift in LBEVR, moving to more AR, MR, XR concept. But at the same time, I think I nailed that one. But the mini golf still remains really fractured. So we didn't really see any consolidation there. In fact, we actually probably saw a little bit more oversaturation and fracturing in that market as more players began to introduce their own mini golf concepts. Even as we saw like people moving into like mini golf social bays versus just pure mini golf, right? We saw 501 finally released their what they had teased for a long time, finally released their social bay. We saw Social Rivals actually launch theirs this year into the market as well. So we saw more mini golf fracturing and saturation. So I'll give myself a B minus because I really fucking nailed it on the VR, but missed it on the mini golf. So there we go. B minus, C. You want to, C plus, B minus, right there, whatever, kind of in that area. All right. Now for my low predictions, I had said that this is again 20% or lower things I think should happen, wish they would happen, but was that Disney acquires Camp. Camp is a retailtainment facility or a retailtainment. They do retailtainment venues. So let me use the correct language. And they tend to work with really well-known IPs. And I said, well, I still think that this would be a killer acquisition and move for Disney, as Disney really needs to figure out how to do LBE better, especially retailtainment LBE. I still think that this would be a great one. I did completely miss this. In fact, Disney has really made 0 moves into LBE this year. So why they haven't, and they continue to let other groups like Netflix, I'll call them transmedia organizations now, like Netflix and Sony, although Sony's done a shit job, and Universal, which has done a killer job, move into LBE. Disney continues to ignore this space for at least a period of time. Maybe they have plans, but they just haven't announced them. I don't know about them. But I'm going to give myself an F on this one because I totally missed it. And yeah, I still think it'd be a perfect acquisition for Disney, but they have not done it. All right. My last prediction of 2025 was that Bluey IP and LBE overtakes Angry Birds IP and LBE. And this is because we were beginning to see Bluey everywhere, and Camp had partnered with Bluey actually as well. And like Bluey was just like blowing up. Bluey was blowing up. And so I just thought that, we'll see this kind of happening everywhere. And while Angry Birds definitely, the distribution of IP for Angry Birds definitely declined this year. In fact, I don't think we've really seen a whole lot of major new attractions under the Angry Birds IP. Finally, I think we finally maybe moved on from Angry Birds, hopefully. However, Bluey didn't make any major LBE moves either. So I'll give myself a C minus, D plus on this one. So it wasn't a total fail since Angry Birds didn't continue to increase, but Bluey didn't overtake them either. So, all right, that was my 2025 prediction review. Coming up after the quick break, we will dive right into Open and Shut with Kevin Williams. Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Hey, big hello to all of you for Open and Shut. I hope I find you well. Brandon?
Oh, doing very well. Doing very well. So it's first Open and Shut of the new year. So yeah, it's crazy. And it doesn't feel like it's very many as well. So
no. Wow, straight into 2026. Quite an amazing period. And we start with, as Brandon's alluding to, quite a reasonable number of openings. I'm going to be cagey here. Partly, I haven't been as diligent as I normally am going through my research information on new facilities opening. So these are the ones that actually dropped physically into my lap or I was pointed to. And also, hey, it was Christmas, and
exactly.
Some people don't think it's a good idea to open up a facility during Christmas. I would agree with them. I do expect this to be a lull before the storm. So let's see what the next Open and Shut brings to the table. But anyway, follow the rules, you know them. Pause if I zip through too quickly, because I'm going to talk about all of them with a little bit of reason. Play it. Interesting. Australian. Interesting. Competitive socializing meets amusement, even more interesting. One of the things that we can see is that the Australian and New Zealand market has really embraced competitive socializing and amusement and entertainment experiences. And I think we're now seeing the galvanization of these brands and new brands appearing that fit into that mix. Play It, from what I've seen, what I've visited at the website, looks like the beginning of a big push by a company to come up with a new chain.
Yeah, and I mean, just the really interesting how much I don't know that they've spent a ton, but the fact that they really invested heavily in the entrance. So it's clearly in a shopping mall, but just the digital, the LEDs on both the ceiling and the walls of their entrance to come into what seems to be anyway a somewhat standard arcade is really interesting.
From inside, it looks like a Chinese infused arcade. So a lot of dark themality, a lot of neon, but it is still an arcade by all mix. Move a little further into the structure and you see where the competitive socializing elements are, that they have mini golf in there. They also have some other social entertainment components. I am seeing a lot of companies now looking at the new range of OLED floor, wall, and ceiling signage systems now being deployed as permanent entrance displays. We've seen it in the retail sector. A number of perfume and high fashion brands are using them now in malls. Very striking, and I think we will be following close behind. All part of that phygital environment I keep on going on about. Moving on, and an existing facility in the UK has added, a new component to their mix of entertainment, and this is one that I'm a big fan of. We reported on X-Cube during the IALPA 2025 coverage, and it's now nice to see operators actually deploying the system, giving them an extra attraction, which again promotes the phygital component. It's a digital mission room experience, and with some of the new content based on UK IP, I think this is a good mix into the bowling, active entertainment, social entertainment environment.
And it's a nice, X-Cube is a nice drop-in. This seems to be anyway, a nice drop-in like way to add this kind of like mini escape room, mission room type experience without having to do significant build out on your own.
It ticks a box, and if operated correctly and you understand your audience appeal, it fits right in. Moving on, and Round 1 appeared on my radar just as we were coming to the end of the year. I'm still having problems with Round 1 USA in trying to chase down which are new openings, which are installations or rebrandings. But I'm led to believe that this Houston, Texas facility, which is their latest Texas facility, adds to their 57 facilities. And the interesting thing about this site is that it has has that Spark system on the bowling, giving it immersive displays, phygital capability. It's got the Spo-cha, the sports challenge zone. I think that's what Spo-cha is abbreviated for, sports challenge, because we see it in Japan. Now it's being brought over across a number of the US sites. All in all, 100,000. Sorry, someone's added an extra zero there. I apologize.
Yeah.
1,000 square foot facility. If it was 1,000, we'd be talking about it a lot more. It is their usual standard mix fitting into their proven formula.
Yeah, every Round 1 I've walked into that has the Spo-cha zones, they're empty. They're not being used. And so maybe it's a thing in Japan. Like obviously they brought it over here. Maybe it's more popular, but I've very rarely, if ever, when I think about it, seen Spo-cha zones being utilized. And so I do wonder, maybe I'm just there at the wrong time of day. They keep building these with the Spo-cha component, and you're like, well, if they had the data to show that it's being used or isn't being used, I would think that it wouldn't continue to be added into the new locations. And maybe to your point, this isn't a new location, or they just reopened or whatever, or they renovated and stuff, like who knows exactly. But if they're continue to open new locations with components that are underutilized, I just don't understand why they continue to drive that model forward.
The Japanese have found great success with the Spo-cha component. It is an active entertainment. It is promoted heavily. Here in North America, they haven't promoted it. They haven't given it its own brand. They've, cut and pasted the concept directly in. I don't think it's positioned correctly for active entertainment for the target audience. I think that they need to take a long, hard look at what they're trying to achieve with this concept and maybe give it its own love, give it its own promotion, maybe even mix up some of the entertainment and go for less of the physical and more for the digital, but you would expect me to say that. Again, we are at a point where Round1 USA is going to have to reveal its numbers and be a little bit more transparent regarding where its various components, how its ping pong's doing, how its food's doing, and other stuff like that. And I think 2026 is going to be an important year to find out how successful Spo-cha is as a component of Round1. Our friends at Sandbox VR came to the end of 2025 with 72 facilities. They just crossed the line with 73 entering into the new year, but this was their 72nd facility in Canada, an interesting location. I am still trying to work out whether this is a franchise or a direct own. I think this is a franchise. It's safe to say this. One here. The playing environment, I've just got a snapshot picture there. You walk upstairs into one of the many arena or VR arena areas, and it's opened to the world around you. So I'm hoping, praying that they're embracing that mixed reality approach that we were talking about in the last sound off, where you start off in an interesting environment, you put the headset on, and then you're transported into a virtual environment seamlessly. I think this for me was an interesting take on their traditional layout that we see at Sandbox VR venues.
Yeah, I mean, it is super interesting, mostly because it's actually pleasing to look at. When we've gone into some Sandbox VRs, like it's very broken up, chopped up. You walk into this room, it's enclosed, and you don't really feel like you're a part of anything else, especially with your smaller group or your group is split up. I really like this layout. I like that they're in the open and you can see out to the broader world.
We'll have to see if this is just a one-off example by a franchisee, or if this is something that Sandbox is now going to embrace. We're at that pivotal moment, nearly at 80 facilities, and I know that in the next couple of months, when they cross that 80 threshold, we'll be seeing some developments from Sandbox VR regarding their future business positioning. I mentioned lots of games previously, and it was corrected to me that there's some other openings in the chain. So we're up to 4 facilities now rather than 3. And this latest Italian site carries on the shopping mall high brightness, lots of games in their facility. The thing for me, a little bit of a niggle, you'd expect a niggle from me, is that they depend for their VR components on Chinese systems that are just dropped straight in with no, what I can see, additional local flavor to that. Maybe I should actually play the games at their facility before I comment about that, and not depend just on the photographs of the facility. But I'll just, I'll leave that as a caveat regarding their lots of games.
Still hate the name. I just did a search even now, and I typed in a lot of games, Dominica, Italy, and even changed my browser location to or my Google search location to Italy, and still doesn't show up when I search for it, because a lot of games, I've got board games and other things, places I can buy board games and things like that, and it just is not. Anyway.
Yeah, I have to depend on the database with companies like this. I just click on the database link that we have within the package, rather than, as you just had to go through the pain and anguish of the search. Maybe we need a VPN
That might be the only way to do it, to actually see if it shows up in search. Yeah.
It's something that I think they may not notice is a problem, and they may not feel there's a problem because they're dealing with a local audience. But I would argue that it's something that they need to address internationally. I've touched upon the casino industry and their love affair of having an entertainment component. The regional entertainment sector has continued that investment, and here Ocean Casino Resorts in Jersey has dropped in what I would say is a competitive socializing with a little bit of amusement and a little bit of F&B. It's to increase the dwell time at the resort for the target audience that will be entertained by a social and amusement component. Moving on, and a new one for me in the competitive socializing. Not often that we deal with South Africa regarding competitive socializing, but it's important that we've also mentioned Nigeria a couple of times over the opens and shuts regarding competitive socializing new venues. Well, we have Shooters in Johannesburg, and if you want an interesting story about searching this one out, typing Shooters, Johannesburg, South Africa will get you a lot of news reports about local crime. It doesn't get you to a competitive socializing venue until you add the additional prompts of social, entertainment, amusement, or hospitality. I would argue about that name.
Totally.
I would really argue about that name if you want to appear in a lot of news searches when crime takes place in your area. But anyway, from the video and the photos that we have of the actual site, it is your standard competitive socializing. It has shooting simulators there for sports clay pigeon shooting. It also has the ubiquitous AR darts and the ubiquitous shuffleboard set up with cocktails. And interesting, this is the second venue in this chain, and the first venue went right underneath my radar. So, guys, that name may be a problem in the long run.
Totally agree about the name. There's no question at all. And also it's misnamed. It's not just shooting. If it were a pure, clay shooting gallery, or even if you wanted to throw like darts in there along with the clays as part of like shooting, shooting darts, like, okay, I get it, but you have mini golf, you have digital shuffleboard, you have F&B, you're trying to be, a mix, actually a competitive socializing mix, which is good to see that they are doing a mix and not just selecting one, but their name is, gives them the sense that you're coming there to do a very specific thing, which is shoot, clay pigeons or shoot darts, and is also just a terrible name in general. Also, incredibly close. If you would take the SOA, it's incredibly close to Hooters logo. You've got the owl looking, that looks through the two O's, and then the little beak for the right there. So like if you were to just have another little bullseye in the other O, it would look very close to the Hooters logo.
Double whammy, eh? Branding, important. There are two facilities in. It's not too late to upgrade your branding for your third facility concept. And fingers crossed that they can establish a market hold where they can survive a quick rebranding before the market becomes a little too intense. But that's an observation from two guys, across the pond from where they are. And, if they are willing to reach out and contact us, I'd love to speak to them more about the idea behind their two facility operation. Activate, they rolled out a group of facilities in the UK just at the end of the year. About 3 sites went in. Vauxhall in London also opened up. This moves very quickly towards their aspirations to have 30 facilities open in the UK within the next 3 or 4 years.
Keep rolling.
We wish them the best on this. Interesting one here. Took me a while to unpick this one when it was thrown to me. Hollywood Entertainment Center is an established bowling entertainment facility in the Netherlands. We nailed down that there may be more than one of the Hollywood entertainment centers in the Netherlands. Their website was a joy. And they have just launched Battle Square. Battle Square has gone into their latest facility, if we understand all of this. And when I saw Battle Square, I just saw the picture originally of the woman kicking the ball, and I didn't actually see the X wall next door to it. And I thought I was looking at a Toca Social. But what it does seem is our friends at X-Wall, the company that does the projection ball tracking system that we've talked about in sound off from occasion when talking about new technologies. But anyway, they have created their bay, their football bay enclosure based on their X-Wall technology. And they've launched this under the Battle Square brand. And this seems to be a drop-in entertainment attraction, similar to how our friends at Immersive Gamebox has a drop-in projection entertainment experience. I will look forward to seeing how the company moves forward with this, if this is a one-off that was done for the Hollywood Entertainment Center, or if this is part of a rollout of a number of installations within the market. Toca's got some competition.
Yeah, definitely. And just looking at some of the pictures of this location, I mean, the site isn't fully live. It's actually not a great site to navigate, but I mean, it's a really interesting, kind of beautifully themed space location. Actually,
I made the mistake originally as soon as my database flagged this as I thought it was Hollywood Bowl we were talking about in the UK, and then I had to jump back and correct myself and go for it was the European, and then having a look, wander around virtually of the Hollywood entertainment site. It is more than just a bowling facility. It is offering an entertainment mix, and they are keen on the quality and the level of engagement of the entertainment that they offer at the facility. And, it seems logical that alongside their what I would call social bowling experience, or boutique bowling, next door to their amusement and their attractions and their simulators and their social media, their competitive socializing stuff, that they would drop in a Toca Social kind of component. And the only issue I had was it was so difficult to find out if this was part of a chain or if this was a single site that has a very high quality curb appeal.
Yeah.
Hopefully our Flemish friends can correct me if I've missed out on a budding new chain of operations. The mix of adding competitive socializing, immersive entertainment, and active entertainment into other areas, into other markets is taking hold. And we're sort of greeted here by the announcement that LA Fitness, a well-known UK gym and fitness chain of facilities, has done a deal to drop in a XR fitness attraction. Now, for you that are not familiar with this, XR Fit is a virtual reality fitness system, kind of like a Beat Saber experience, but aimed much more at losing weight and creating a healthy physical experience. They have been selling this as a consumer system, but they have also been toying with this as a location-based entertainment experience that we have seen kind of playing on the same level as our friends at Black Box VR did with their fitness platform. Anyway, rather than opening their own sites, they seem to have started a partnership with LA Fitness. We have the first site opening. It doesn't just have the XR Fit set up, which are kind of put the headset on and boxercise together with everybody in virtual reality. They also have brought in some CAT VR, omnidirectional VR treadmill systems there, so that there's an additional entertainment value here. All very physical, all very VR, and we look forward to seeing how this is actually embraced by the local audience. How happy everybody is to pass around sweaty head-mounted displays, how good the cleaning regime is, how well the education for the staff. I know there's a lot of negatives, but there's also the positive, which is losing weight in VR is a lot more enjoyable than the boring treadmill and listening to your Walkman machine, showing my age.
Yeah, I mean, this is super interesting. LA Fitness is actually a really big chain even out here in the
Yes.
US. You know, I don't.
This
I don't
is the UK chain.
across the
Need
US,
to be.
but yeah. But it's interesting to see that they're beginning to experiment with this. You know, I don't want to work out with a VR headset on my head personally. But you know, look, if it gets people who maybe wouldn't have done it otherwise, then I'm all for fitness and for health. And so, okay, all right, well, let's try it. Let's see how it works.
The fitness industry is the one. If you had to pick a real corporation or sector of the market that was impacted the hardest by COVID, the fitness industry was. It was just that pause in which people didn't use their gym membership full stop and ended their gym membership because they thought they were never going to be going back to the gym again, the same way that people thought that they were never going to be going back to the arcades or going back to the cinema or even going back to the restaurant industry, where all these other industries bounced back and, you know, dusted themselves off and carried on where they'd left off. The fitness industry, and especially the gym industry, has not, and they're reinventing themselves. We're seeing the openings of specialist boutique boxing and weightlifting and certain high impact exercise venues now opening instead of the more traditional fitness facility. And here, I think we're seeing LA Fitness taking a punt, as it were, on how they can vitalize their business. Seems to be constantly talking about an urban air opening. We have another one opening in Washington. I couldn't find much more information other than it's opening. It's another one. It has the same format as all of the others. You know, whoop-de-doo. They have 351 sites open out there, part franchise, part self-owned. It's I suppose it's difficult to get people too excited about it. It's just the audience will come if they build it from the way that it's being presented.
Yeah, I mean, in each one, this is where we come back to, we've talked about this, not about urban air specifically, but about the mix of attractions that you don't necessarily know what you're going to get when you walk into it. Obviously, one of urban air's focuses is to drive membership. So like you kind of pick your urban air that you go to, and obviously you're going to know then what attractions are there. But if you're just walking in or you're traveling and you've been to an urban air in the past and you walk into another urban air and you're expecting to see go-karts, you're expecting to see other types of attractions, and then there not then, you know, VR, you run into that situation. I do wish that they would standardize their attraction mix a little bit more. But I also understand that their franchisees, you know, have different budgets depending on what they want to do and the types of attractions they want to add into their mix.
And this is the inherent danger of franchise rather than sales partners or operator partners approach to entertainment. You may have a lot of facilities out there, but if you have an unjointed mix of what your offering is, at some point in time it becomes noise and your audience becomes disenfranchised because they don't have any connection with you, because they don't know what they're going to get from place to place to place. And then we see fragmentation. But at the moment, urban air are going great guns at rolling out facilities, and maybe it's time that they have a look at their entertainment mix once they catch their breath. And then really ending the openings, more of a mom and pop operation, a family-run new entertainment facility, mixture of redemption and claw machines, positioning of redemption, seem more focused on kind of the crane size than on the ticket size. So it's prize centric. Classic retro amusement machines. Most, it seems most family mum and pop facilities always add a retro component, and with a smattering of amusement and some F&B as well. I'm not sure from the website how much the F&B is a component. Their website is quite clear. I'll give them that, and it's broken down to we have this, we have this, we have the amusement, and we have that. But I'm still not sure how much this is leaning towards being an F&B with amusement, or an amusement that also has the capability of offering you some snacks.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this really looks like it's the latter. This is you're here for a little bit of amusement. They have a gaming lounge,
Yes.
like classic gaming lounge. They have shelves full of video games, and then they have a tabletop section too. I didn't see where they actually have tabletop games to choose from, so maybe bring your own tabletop game. Why ever you would do that versus just go play your tabletop game at home, I don't know. But yeah, it seems to be very light on the F&B, like probably snacks, concessions at the most.
Yeah, we'll find out. It's a vending machine at the back. So,
Yeah,
but at least they're creating a hangout social environment, and I wish them a lot of luck on getting that mix to work. Hopefully, they've done the research on what the market there is actually going to want, as they're popping into a retail unit within an already existing, I'll say, shopping zone.
Yeah.
So we enter the wonderful world of shuts, sales, and restructurings. And the big news, just as the year was coming to an end, we told you so. Sorry, I left my "Told You So" T-shirt back in London. But Sixes really, the management turned round and pulled in the liquidators, and the liquidators turfed up our administration. From the UK point of view, and they said they've gone through challenging trading period, and that they're looking at the 16 facilities, and they're going to evaluate which ones that they can turn around. Well, the information we got from well-placed sources, and I thank those sources for being so accurate, was that they closed down one of their facilities straight away. The day they made the announcement that they were going into administration, one site closed its doors. The other sites stayed open during the holidays, which is a good thing, because there were a lot of parties booked, as you would have expected for the holiday periods. But with the sort of Damocles hanging over what is the future for Sixes, no news about what is going to happen to Moonshots, no news about some of their other relationships that they had. But we will go into this in a little bit more detail, obviously, in Sound Off.
I mean, this isn't surprising at all. Like we said, I think we whether we called it or not on the actual air, we definitely had this conversation about Sixes in general. Social cricket. Anyway, I don't need to. It's too bad. But I'm also not surprised. I was also beginning to wonder if something was happening because the location at Grandscapes in Dallas, it's a big entertainment venue. It's where Cosm, it was next to Cosm. There's a putt shack there. There's a Andretti karting and games. There's a bunch of other social entertainment. There's actually a Sandbox VR there as well. And they closed. They last time I was at Grandscapes, they had closed. And so this was it was maybe the canary in the coal mine.
I'm concerned that there's been stealth closings, and that as soon as it became knowledge, then they had to admit that they'd gone into administration. We can touch upon this in more detail later on. Dreamscape, not a surprise either here. Dreamscape had been down to 3 of their VR arena facilities. Their flagship European site in Geneva and their Riyadh facility. Well, in December, at the end of it, was suddenly revealed that they would be closing on the 28th their site in Geneva. The company has pivoted away from their location-based VR aspirations and now turns towards Dreamscape Learn, which is an educational component, which is partnered with, at the time, had been partnered with the University of Utah, if my memory serves me right. Again, we'll go into a little bit more detail regarding where this fits into the whole VR arena standalone, single site franchise operation in Sandorf. And then a surprise one. My web robots came back to me with their delivery for the day, and they told me that the altitude in Dallas was closing. And I was like, why? What? Where? So I went away and did the research. Yes, it's closing. This particular facility at Fort Worth, not a lot of information given. There are 92 facilities out there. All of the other facilities seem to be bubbling along quite nicely. Maybe the team at Altitude thought that having 5 altitudes within this environment was a bit too many, and that they've cut their losses and focused on the more profitable. Again, I don't know if this was a franchise site that was closing down or if this was a retained site, but you know, that was one of the closings that took place 2025.
I don't have any insights either as to whether it was a franchise or corporate location, but I mean, Dallas-Fort Worth is massive. It's the largest metropolitan area in the country, in the U.S. But so 5 is not overly saturated at all. The issue is this is where the trampoline park industry began, was in Dallas, and so they're literally, I mean, effectively began there, and so it's just overly saturated in general with trampoline parks and adventure parks in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, even if 5 altitudes in themselves were not overly saturated.
If we see another one in this territory or in this catchment go, then I'm going to hold up the flag of saying, if you haven't broadened your active entertainment offering away from just offering trampolines and aren't offering active entertainment and attractions and maybe F&B and a broader mix, then this could be the canary in the coal mine. But I'll hold my powder dry a little bit until we see more about this. And then finally, a closing soon to be reopened. If you're familiar with how the Indian reservation entertainment business works, they have a large amount of investment. They are very focused on their audience. They know their catchment intimately. I was given an education many moons ago by one of the reservation organizers who told me chapter and verse of how many people were playing the machines and were using their cinema and were using their laser tag. They know their audience. And at the Bear River Family Entertainment Center, they have decided that they're going to be revitalizing their operation. They're going to be increasing the size of their entertainment offering. I don't know if that's putting more lanes on, but they're talking about a brand new update to the entertainment facility, and they're also talking about brand new branding to appeal to a wider audience catchment. So they're looking outside of the reservation business. But again, they're closing down, but wait for it to be added to the openings in summer. Anyway, I'd just like to thank everyone for their support last year, and like to wish everybody a fantastic 2026 going forwards. And if you have any information that you want to pass on to us, you have our LinkedIn details and our email details, and please make sure that you're receiving the Stinger reports. We're just coming to the end of our extensive IARPA coverage, and we're now going to be jumping into the chaos that 2026 will bring to us.
Excellent. All right. Well, looking forward to, I guess, our second one. I was going to say our first one in the new year, but it'll be our second open and shut in the new year next week.
Look forward to it. Have a good one.
Power up your game floor with Arcades by Round1. Whether it's perfectly pouring drinks in Dr. Pepper Soda Slam, grabbing official Butts on Things plushies, or defending cities from attack and missile command recharge, Round1 has something for every venue and arcade floor that will delight your guests. Each game is also enhanced with Major League Esports, a free app that tracks player top scores and brings guests back to your venue for more. Visit allen-1.com to learn more. That's allen-1.com. All right. Well, that was a great open and shut. Actually, quite a bit of discussion for relatively few openings. We're going to jump next into Arcade Corner with Adam Pratt. Let's do it.
Hey everybody, it's Adam with Arcade Heroes for the Arcade Corner, the last one of 2025, first one of 2026. And so obviously the thing you do around this time of year is review what went on throughout the year. Of course, I have a limited amount of time to do that, so let's just jump right into it. Here over on arcadeheroes.com, one thing that I've been doing since 2009 is tracking all of the releases that come out. And sorry about the bird. He's just decided to be very noisy all of a sudden when he was quiet earlier. Of course, probably just because I hit record. But so I've always been keen to track what games are released, and not just in North America, but all across the planet. Sometimes it's a little difficult on Asia just because it's not always clear when certain games are released. Like Japan's really good about setting dates as to when something begins to operate or begins shipping, but China is not. Many times we'll just suddenly see a game if we hear about it at all. And then, of course, Europe's not quite as busy, but mainly just focus on North America here. And then after this, get into the trade shows that we were at through the year. And then if I have more time, talk a little bit about business, like the state of the industry. And so one company that's going to pop up a lot on this list is XR Arcadia. And that's because their system works like the old Neo Geos did from the 90s, where you had cartridges. Granted, the XR Arcadia cartridges are much smaller. Don't have one with me, but I actually do own 3 different XR Arcadia cabinets. I have several games, but they're about this size, I would say, like a king size Kit Kat candy bar. But their business model allows them to release a lot of content during the year. And when they come to trade shows, they're generally the ones that you could say have the most new content just because of that. But on April 15th, they released Air Gallet Exa Label, which was a 90s shoot 'em up game. And they've remastered that, added some improvements, added new content and such, make it the ultimate version of that game. So anytime you see Exa Label, it's talking about doing this sort of remaster of an original game, which will also include the original game with the software in those instances. But then the new Exa modes will also be available. You have Alpha Ops VR Strike by 3 Mind Wave and Sega Amusements, which came out in July. There is a slightly different version of this one over in China, but some of the changes they made to that one are still present on the North American and European release, where I think with the slightly smaller gun. It's not quite the same. It's just the company that designed this are the ones that designed VR Agent, and so they wanted to make the guns a little easier to use, a little smaller, like you can use just one hand instead of having to hold both hands on it. And then it has the 2 screens side by side so that onlookers can see what's going on, but you're otherwise looking inside of the gun, inside a VR headset integrated into the gun. Here's another Exa game that just came out this month, actually last week, and Asuka 120% Burning Feet Excellent, which is based on a 1990s fighting game, anime style graphics and such. Very popular with people that were into the fighting game scene that was like on the Sega Saturn, PlayStation 1 back in the day, as it came out on those platforms and some others. Avian Nights by Alan 1 came out in January, and that actually was their very first game that they had released to consoles, but it came out after Asteroids Recharged did. And so it's think of it as a modern Joust, if you haven't seen that one. And that's actually been available in 3 models. I should change that photo there. See Axel City 2, The Final Storm, which is a major update to a one-on-one fighting game by XR Arcadia. as it's everything I've heard is this Axel City 2 game is able to beat out the newest Street Fighter in arcades, which is very impressive because it doesn't look like a modern game. It looks like a 1990s game, but apparently wherever it's found, even over here in the West, I've heard of an operator that has it, and he says it does really well. Very surprising. And Bigfoot Smash by Eunice, which is also works as a redemption game. I call those Videmption, with the little moving seats, 3 players. It just dynamically will change the screen, like how much screen space you get depending on how many people are playing. Bunny Bomber Blast for the X Arcadia. That's also this would be a new retro game where it's kind of like Dig Dug meets Bomberman, but the graphics look like they're from, say, like 1982, 1983, around there. Obviously, it doesn't have flicker and stuff like that. And also for X Arcadia was Cambria Sword Another Cry, which is a scrolling shoot 'em up game, kind of like Darius or Gradius. If you're familiar with those titles, you just play this ancient creature battling other ancient creatures, and there's robotics. It has a ton of content on it. So if you're into those sort of things, also known as shmups, it's a pretty fun game, pretty cool one. Cannonball Jam by Blue Motion Games came out in February. And that is where you fire balls at the actual screen. This model here looks small, but in person, this thing is huge. It's a 100-inch screen, and I don't remember what the height on it is, but it's very tall. Later in the year, they released a 2-player version of that one, although it wasn't at the 2-player model wasn't at IAPA. Just one we'll speak of in it here in a second. Chaos Code Nemesis Experiment, a one-on-one fighting game for the X Arcadia, came out in November. It's a sequel and fully arcade exclusive. In fact, I should mention that all these Exa games are also, as you can see, I put a symbol on here to denote if it's exclusive to arcades. As an operator, I think that's important because the more exclusivity we have, the more reason we can help people come to our locations. Cyberpunk 2077 Turf Wars came out on August 1st. It debuted, the prototype version debuted at Amusement Expo in Las Vegas in March. And then they put it on test in Dave & Buster's, made improvements. I played it at IAPA, and it was much improved over what I'd seen in Vegas. Demon Bride X Again, a one-on-one fighting game between demons and angels on the X Arcadia, came out in June. Desert Chase by Blue Motion Games. The 4-player model also came out in February, but at IAPA 2025, they had a 2-player model. Again, the 2-player model is much closer to what you would typically find in a FEC and such, but these 4-player models were also made for FECs to really stand out. Dino Dash by Eunice apparently came out in October. I've been trying to find out from Eunice exactly when some of their games ship because they're not always clear on that. This was listed to their website, but it wasn't at IAPA. And so that's where it's a little hard to know for sure, but I haven't gotten a response on those yet. So as far as I know, that one came out in October. Dino Storm, which was a big hit at IAPA 2024, and it was also at Amusement Expo, came out in March, but surprisingly it wasn't at IAPA 2025. Dune Pinball by Barrels of Fun came out in May based on the new Dune films, but not sure how many locations out there grabbed one. Dungeons and Dragons, I misspelled something here. It's supposed to be the Tyrant's Eye, not the Eye of the Tyrant. By Stern came out in January. I actually grabbed a premium model for that one earlier this year. Eartheon Exa label by a very famous Japanese musician and his company. Very fun game if you're into 90s style shoot 'em ups. It was designed for the Sega Genesis, and the new version carries that, or this game carries that same look. They actually are working on a Genesis version coming out in 2026. Food Fight Frenzy, a new 4-player game for arcades that is based on the Atari Food Fight game. This would be one of the few sequels that ever got. That was by Retro Arcade Remakes, came out in June. Golden Tee 2026 or PGA Tour 2026 came out on September 29th. Gold Star and Pirates by Bandai Namco Amusements came out in July. Also a fun game. They added Golden Guns to that at Amusement Expo for the final release. Gravatar Recharge by Atari and Allen One just came out, just started shipping this week and this past week. So last game of the year, Harry Potter by Jersey Jack Pinball came out in June. I finally got a chance to play that at IAPA. I thought it was fun. Hunter x Hunter and then Impact by X Arcadia came out in October, and it was at IAPA as well. A one-on-one fighting game based on a popular anime IP. Jackpot Racer by Raw Thrills. This does have a non-redemption mode, although I imagine 99% of locations are going to use it as a redemption game. Came out in November. Jam Jam and Jelly Excellente came out on June. That's also a scrolling shoot 'em up, fantastically animated, beautiful game. Lots of cool voiceovers. Kaiju Rampage by Wallop, IGS, and LAI Games came out on February 28th. And then later at IAPA 2025, we did see that they have a four-player model, although I haven't been able to confirm when that's shipping yet. King Kong Myth of Terror Island by Stern Pinball came out on April 15th. Got to play that for the first time at IAPA as well. My DX Prism by Sega came out in September. Very, very popular game. Been hearing about a lot of locations that have been grabbing this, as there's a lot of fans for it out there. Even though it's never had an official American release and never had a console port, it's just one of those Japanese cultural things that's kind of seeped into our own culture. Marksman by Andamiro USA came out in December, this past month. Missile Command Recharged, another Recharged game by Atari and Allen 1 came out in July, exactly 45 years after the original Missile Command came out. Monster Jet Riders by Eunice and Monster Kart were both released this year. These games can link to each other even though they use different controllers. But Monster Jet Riders came out in September. Monster Kart came out on February 20th. Monster Kart Deluxe came out, I think it was March or April. Neon Rush by Eunice came out in July, this version with the 2 screens. And then later in the year, they released the single screen deluxe model. Nope Nope Nurses, which is a not safe for work game, came out on May 31st. It's for an X Arcadia variant platform called Hot Pink. Perfect Pour by DSM Arcade came out in February. And so this actually was the game that inspired games like Icy Slush Rush and Soda Slam. But it actually made it to market before Icy Slush Rush did. And so it's the originator of the concept and did get out in time before Icy did. Predator by Pinball Brothers came out in September, a somewhat limited release, but probably can't find one out there. Sailor's Quest 2 VR by Eunice came out in January and wasn't at IAPA or Amusement Expo. Soda Slam by DSM Arcade and Allen 1. I mean, Soda Slam is based on the Perfect Pour software, but heavily modified to work more for FECs. And so it does have redemption play, but it also has normal play for points. That started shipping in May. Star Wars Fall of the Empire by Stern Pinball came out in September, the 4th Star Wars game that Stern has done in the past 10 years. Super Drill by Ace Amusement and Amusement Source came out in January. This can be played without tickets, but is primarily a redemption game. Top Gun Maverick by Play Mechanics and Raw Thrills came out in May. Got to play the latest final software for that on at IAPA 2025. Vanguard Princess R by FK Digital and X Arcadia came out in October, one-on-one fighting game. Walking Dead Remastered came out on November 4th by Stern Pinball. I also got to play that. I was actually fairly good at it at IAPA. But some fans have really been vocal about how much they do not like the color scheme on that particular game. And then Wild Hunting, the only game that's really tried to challenge Big Buck Hunter, came along, and this was at IAPA by Ace Amusement and Amusement Source International. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, there's some games you missed. Well, there were several games that would just be called new model releases, like the 2-player versions of Desert Chase and Cannonball Jam. Dr. Pepper Soda Slam by Allen 1 came out in October, as did Liquid Death. I believe that started shipping in December as well. And I already mentioned the Monster Kart and Neon Rush. Perfect Pour Pabst Blue Ribbon Edition did come out in October, and that was at the ABS Company's booth at IAPA. And so you have a few of those. There's also some limited releases where it's just like either you have to buy them direct from China, or they were just on test at a certain location for a limited time, like Cyberpunk 2077 Turf Wars was available at Dave & Buster's from April through August exclusively. Dave & Buster's also had a Hot Wheels Victory Lap racing game by Adrenaline Amusements, not the same as the Hot Wheels King of the Road game, but more like a regular driver. But we don't know if that's just going to be a Dave & Buster's exclusive. And then there are a lot of games coming soon, but we don't have time to really get into that, nor do we really have time to get into a lot of the Japanese releases, which do include some things that aren't just X Arcadia, like some Konami games. But let's jump over here to trade shows. Trade shows were plentiful throughout the year, and we should have a similar setup in 2026. You usually start with EAG in London in January, and then there might be some trade shows in February, but usually not too much. It used to be that Japan liked to do their big amusement expo in February, but they've for some reason bizarrely moved that over to November, literally right before IAAPA the past 2 years. There was Amusement Expo in Las Vegas where we got to see plenty of games debut, like I already mentioned, Cyberpunk Turf Wars and My by Sega. There was Deal. There was the GTIA Southeast Asia Expo. Let's see what else we got. There was, GTI Asia China, already mentioned, or actually, I guess there was 2 GTI Asia China expos throughout the year. AAA Expo, Bowl Expo, which not a lot of people went to because for some reason somebody thinks it's a great idea to keep holding that right around the 4th of July. I didn't go this year. And the AAA Expo over in China showed off a lot of new games. And then, of course, there was IAAPA 2025. And of course, there's just other games other expos too. It's usually stuff like Amusement Expo, Bowl Expo, IAAPA that get most of our attention. But over in China, like I said, AAA Expo, the GCI Asia China Expo are really big events. There was IAAPA Europe, which has been growing in size and prominence with more new releases showing up there than have been done in the past. And so it's going to be a busy year for trade shows. As far as I know, the IAAPA 2025 was the most attended trade show, or IAAPA, in their history. And so I think previously the record had been set in 2019. And so that was a good sign for the health of the industry overall. Just really quick for myself in businesses, I do operate my own arcade. This year was not great. And I've heard that from a lot of other operators. There's a Facebook group called FEC Operators out there where there's a lot of people that congregate and discuss business and such. And watching a thread where somebody was complaining about how slow business was, there was a lot of people agreeing, but there were some people who were saying on the contrary, where they were having their best year ever. And so definitely kudos to them on that. For me, I've been seeing a decline really since 2022 as I've been looking at year on year, month on month sorts of earnings, and just around the middle of 2022 it's just been slowly on the decline. And I was hoping that we would have hit the bottom in 2024, which was not great at all, but this year just kind of continued that same trend for me. Part of my situation, though, is I'm in a mall that's just not been doing a good job at attracting people to come inside the mall. And they've done stuff that's attracted people on the outside, but those people on the outside don't come inside. Movie theaters have been struggling. There's a movie theater in our place in the mall that in the past had anytime a big film release would come along, things would be busy. But I've also had the direct competition of an FEC since 2019. And so between the FEC, between a slow movie theater, that's really impacted my business negatively. And so I actually have been looking at possibilities and options as to moving out of the mall. And I don't know where that's going to go precisely yet, but if it happens, I'm very hopeful that it will lead to bigger, better things for my business. give myself more control over my destiny than where I am right now. But it's a huge, huge risk to be able to do that. And so we'll see how that pans out. But overall, it does sound like things are a little uneven in the arcade industry from what I've been hearing. And you can feel free to comment on this video below if you've been seeing things good or worse or the same as they were in previous years. But hopefully your business has been doing great and that it will continue to do so. But thanks for watching Arcade Corner throughout the year. Continue on. Let's see what else is here at the LBX Collective.
If you run a location-based entertainment brand and want to attract more visitors, check out Radius. They use real-time location data and customized marketing strategies to help brands like yours stand out. Radius can boost your foot traffic and build a loyal customer base. Plus, they're offering a complimentary local market analysis to show you exactly how they can help you grow. Curious? Visit radius.co and ask about your free market analysis. That's RAYDIUS.co.
All right. Well, thanks, Adam, for that 2025 rundown in the amusement industry and space. Coming up next, we got promo pro tips with Chuck DeMonte. And then we have my 2026 predictions. All right. We are almost there. Let's hear from Chuck.
Hello and welcome to Promo Pro Tips with Chuck DeMonte. Happy New Year. We are going into 2026. I hope 2025 treated everybody extremely well. And I know in the FEC space, it's been a little bit tight, right? So, people are still on sort of, unfortunately, a downtrend, I would say, in the industry all the way from 23, right? When people had stimulus money and people were trying to get out of the house still. And so I wouldn't necessarily say it's a decrease in revenue. I think it's a return to sort of normalcy, right? But there is more competition in the space. There is higher cost of living, right? Across personal, business, professional, cost of goods, right? Everything's up, right? And maybe your revenue's down, okay? So how do we set ourselves up for success in 2026? I want to give you 4 trends that I really think you need to lean into from just a business ops perspective and a marketing perspective in 2026. And here's what they are. So starting with number 1, we all need to go back to the basics, right? What does that mean? I think you are seeing the good operators from the bad business operators right now, right? Everybody got sort of lulled to sleep when it was very easy to make $1 in the FEC space. You didn't have to reinvest into your location, new attractions, cleanliness, whatever, right? Upkeeping it, bad staff, like it didn't matter. You were making money. Now is when you separate, like I said, the good operators from the bad operators, okay? So we need to go back to basics. Your place needs to be clean, right? You need to have a well-trained staff, okay? You need to have good customer service. At the end of the day, people are looking for a good experience, right? And historically, even going back to 2008, the FEC space does pretty well, right? Because there's people still need to do stuff with their family, right? They want to get out of the house. And taking $100 to go to the local FEC is much cheaper than taking a road trip or even, obviously going on a vacation, to somewhere you got to fly to, right? Hotels and all that other expensive. So yes, you got maybe less discretionary income, but they're more likely to spend $100 on you than $3,000 somewhere else, obviously, right? So again, people are going to be looking for experiences. If there's a lot of competition in the space, make it worth them spending their $100 with you instead of someone else. Okay, super, super, super important. Go back to basics. That also means knowing your business numbers. What are you spending? What is your cost of goods, right? What is your labor cost, right? All that stuff. Where am I spending on my marketing dollars? Like, get back to the basics. Know all the pieces of your business. It is super, super, super important. Go back to basics. The number one thing and the number one trend you need to lean into 2026. Back to basics, okay? Number 2, marketing efficiency. What does that mean? Stop spending marketing dollars in random places, right? And not knowing if there's ROI and, doing a billboard here and radio here. And, yes, cumulatively, all these things can help potentially, right? But if you have a small budget, you need to be very particular with where you spend those marketing dollars, right? Where you're going to get the most exposure, the cheapest. And typically social media has been the cheapest, right? But one of the things that we lean into tremendously now is basically looking at mobile ID targeting. So we are literally able to find where there's high opportunity, underperforming areas for our FACs, meaning there are, a lot of, let's say, looking at competitors' visitor foot traffic, looking at, our clients' visitor foot traffic, and understanding how it compares and specific drill down by specific zip codes and whether they're underperforming or potentially overperforming those zip codes and where there's more room for opportunity. Okay. So that's going to continue to be a trend. We use a tool called Placer AI. We've literally taken the last 2 years to understand how to action this data, okay? And people are going to continue to lean into that. We're going to continue to lean into that. And it's going to be very, very even more popular in 2026, how to use this data to get in front of the right people and get visitor foot traffic in your FAC, okay? So marketing efficiency, using AI, right, to get better at create, assets and things at lower cost, right? Understanding, using mobile ID traffic to understand where, the best opportunities lie for you to put your marketing dollars, okay, for the best ROI, and even understanding it, using those tools to understand if you are getting an ROI from your marketing, okay? So that's going to continue to be a big trend. It already was in 2025. It's going to continue to grow in 2026. Number 3, sort of going back to the basics. Number 1, right? Grassroots community marketing. Get back to that, okay? Reach out to your schools, reach out to your community events, reach out to your moms in your events, your Facebook groups, right? Get back to basics when it comes to community grassroots marketing. Reach out to your community. If you form a relationship with your community, they're going to want to do business with you. If they show up and they start knowing your names and your people are friendly, right? They're going to want to do business with you, okay? Create a first responders night where you get 50% off. Reach out to them. Stop by the local fire department, the police, police station, whatever. Tell them, hey, we're doing this. Hand out flyers there, whatever you got to do. It might not take off day one, but continuously done like that, it'll get exposure for you. The event will get traction, right? Do a teacher's appreciation weekly night or monthly night, right? Something with teens. I don't know. Get creative there, right? Go reach out to your schools. Find out how you can do field trips, whatever. Go in there and speak to them. Take the time to do that. Build that grassroots community inroads. Okay, it will pay dividends. Okay, so you need to take time to do that. And then last, the number 4, value first. Right now, I'm not saying discount what you offer. I'm saying provide value. Going back to saying if somebody comes and spends $100, they want a good experience. They also want good value. Okay, figure out how you could do this. And without breaking the bank, make your birthday parties really stand out. Make them, that they walk in, they don't have to think about anything. Decorating, right? Just make it a very good experience. Give them a lot of value. Okay, maybe that's having more attractions. Maybe that's having, just a family pass, right? Where they get food and they get these passes or tickets. So think about how you can provide a ton of value, or even just communicate the value. Maybe you already do have a ton of value. Maybe it's, it's a $20 to get into your place. And you get laser tag, you get this, you get all these things. It's like, make sure you communicate that. Like, hey, for $20, it's all day play, right? You're not timed. We have all these attractions. Like, people want to know where they're going to get their best value. Okay. So again, that's number 1, back to basics. Know your business, know your numbers, make sure your staff is well trained, create a good experience. Number 2, marketing efficiency, using AI to improve your assets you do, just how you work, just becoming an assistant, right? Lowering your costs, right? Using mobile ID targeting to understand where there's high opportunity areas for you to place your marketing dollars and if those marketing dollars are working. Number 3, getting back to grassroots and community marketing, building those community inroads so that people want to do business with you. You could grow weekly and evergreen events using that type of marketing. Okay. And number 4, value first. Make sure people know that when they come and spend $1 with you, they're going to get a good experience and a lot of value for spending that dollar. So lean into those 4 things in 2026, and I promise you'll be good. Happy New Year.
All right. Well, thanks, Chuck, for that. And without further ado, it is time for my 2026 predictions for the LBX space. And so we're going to start with my high prediction. This is 80% or higher, I believe, will happen. And this is a bit of a swing on this one. I'll be honest. I'm taking a bit of a swing, for this high prediction here, but I feel pretty confident about it. So I believe that Chuck E. Cheese, or rather CEC Entertainment, will release a video game. You're like, okay, wait a second. They already have a video game. Yes, okay, that's true. They released Chuck E. Cheese's party games back in 2010. So this is 15 years ago, 16 years ago now. Back in 2010, it was for the Wii and iOS. And it was developed by an outside group, UFO Studio Asia. And but that was before they had reinvented their full IP lineup. This is post-bank. So this is like pre-bankruptcy, right? So like the even CEC Entertainment and Chuck E. Cheese has become a transmedia organization. They have a full-on YouTube kids show that's being distributed across not only their own entertainment network, but also they're partnered with going blank on the other name, but they're partnered with something kids network. They have obviously all of the entertainment they have at their facility. They've got this big ad network. They have books that are coming out. They've now moved into adventure parks, and so they are just moving and expanding significantly. And they're doing things that are making moves to make sure that kids are staying engaged with the IP and with their brand on a regular, ongoing basis. Well, yes, are they watching YouTube and watching shows and that have the Chuck E. Cheese characters in them? Certainly. But what are the kids doing when they're playing games, when they're playing video games? They are not playing anything related to Chuck E. Cheese right now. I just believe that this is the moment that we will see Chuck E. Cheese fully embrace all mediums of staying connected with the consumer out of their facility, out of venue, or in home, right? And that will be through a video game. So that is my prediction. Prediction number one of my high predictions, that Chuck E. Cheese or CEC Entertainment will release their first version of a video game. Now, I'm not saying this will be a console game. It will likely either be a mobile game, or it'll be something even built on top of the Roblox platform potentially, or the Fortnite platform. But we will see something. I'm not talking about Fortnite themselves, but on top of their platform, that we'll see something come out along those lines. All right, so that's number one. Number two, I'm actually going to go and revisit one from 2024. So I actually thought that the 2024 was pretty solid, and this I had actually put down in my low predictions in 2024 because we're still in the heat of this. But my prediction is that the last pickleball entertainment venue will start construction in 2026. So that is my prediction, because we are beginning to still see we are like there's virtually very few new pickleball venues that opened up. You have a few examples that seem to be somewhat successful, like Crush Yard, but you also see others that have filed bankruptcy, that have closed their doors, that are not doing well, and their food side is maybe doing okay, but their pickleball side is not. And so I continue to maintain that pickleball as an entertainment destination with F&B is non-viable long term. And so I believe that 2026 will see, we've got enough data, we've got enough examples, enough failures have happened along the way that we will see that pickleball finally fucking stops building entertainment venues. So that is my high prediction. I'm putting it up there because it needs to happen. We need to stop building these things, and we've really significantly ramped down on building new facilities in 2025. And so yeah, anyway, those are my two high predictions. Pickleball, the last pickleball will start construction in 2026. I'm talking about entertainment venues. I still believe pickleball facilities will open up, but these will be like very specific pickleball facilities. In fact, there's a giant USA pickleball facility, like the headquarters of US Pickleball is going to be built in Scottsdale here in Arizona. And so, yes, I believe the pickleball venues will still continue to get built, but they'll be more like social clubs versus entertainment destinations. All right. For my medium 50-50, I believe that, and this is, a little bit of a long shot. I'm taking a little pass on this one, but Merlin Entertainment will file for bankruptcy or go through a major capital restructure this year. And so this, I believe, will happen. Merlin has seen significant shifts and turnover at their executive level. The board is getting frustrated. We've seen things, them having to sell off a number of their things. In fact, Lego just recently, we talked about it on the show, Lego recently acquired the Lego Discovery Center concepts back from Merlin at like what can be considered a significant loss for Merlin. And so I actually believe then, as part of this process, Lego will go and buy back their rights to Lego Lands as well. So as part of this, I think Lego, there's kind of two things happening here. One, I think that Lego is really trying to take control of their own IP and their own experiences, as are most consumer brands now out there. the ones that have had the most success are the ones that really control their experience and build an experiences division within inside their organization. And so I really think that Lego is making similar moves. We've seen it with the consumer products groups like Mattel and Hasbro, for example, Play School. And so I believe that so Lego is making this move, taking their IP back through the Lego Discovery Centers. I think they'll do the same thing with Legoland, and either that will trigger and drive Merlin Entertainment into bankruptcy, or that'll actually be part of their major capital restructure using the capital infused by the acquisition from Lego of their Legoland. So again, a bit of a stretch on this one, but I think that we will see something on Merlin really continue to shake up this year. All right, the second medium prediction, and this one actually probably should I should have made this one the top one, and the high, and pick a wall in the medium. Maybe we can switch them. Nah, it's all right. I'll go with it. Is that we'll see significant growth in announcements of more IP-driven experiences and LBE venues as media organizations, consumer brands go transmedia. So I already mentioned Hasbro and Mattel. I think will either really drive things internally themselves, really expand their experiences division, or they'll just look for new partners. Mattel has had a terrible partner that they've been trying to work with their Mattel Adventure Parks, both in Kansas City and in the Phoenix market. Those have not gone well so far. Hasbro has had very strong success in Hasbro City in Mexico City, but in some of their other Hasbro locations and attempts, they've gone okay, right? They've experimented a lot. They've done a lot of pop-ups. So I think there's going to be some things that they'll need to work through on that front. Obviously, there's been new leadership brought into these different groups to focus on the experiences side. So I think Hasbro and Mattel will definitely look for new partners. I think as part of Sony is going to take another shot. I actually believe that Sony will maybe not open a new facility, because they would have to be already underway, but they'll at least announce their next location. I think the Wonderverse has been a failure for them. And so they're going to look at, okay, what can they do to expand, especially now that they've really bought into the Peanuts franchise. I think they'll do something with the Peanuts franchise as well. And again, we'll likely see some announcements on that front. I think that Beastland, Mr. Beast's Beastland will have another run. They had a relatively successful run in the UAE. I think we'll see Beastland have another opportunity there. So, even in the YouTube media stars and media groups will have their own move here. And then, I think Warner will announce an experience in the US. And I do think that Disney will finally announce plans for their move into LBE. So I think that we're just going to see a significant shift into IP-driven experiences and LBE venues for media organizations moving into the experience sector. All right. For my low predictions, 20% or lower. Again, things that I think should happen, I wish would happen, but may or may not, because they're long shots. And so this one I believe is interesting. So Red Engine, the company behind Flight Club and Electric Shuffle, will launch a new brand that actually merges these two concepts, along with maybe one or two additional social bay concepts, like, for example, clay pigeon shooting or something like that. And so I do think they'll launch a new brand and they'll blend their concepts. They'll use their experiences for Flight Club, their experiences for Electric Shuffle, add maybe one or two additional social bay concepts into the mix, and then take that and launch as a new brand that leveraging the experiences they've had around running single attraction models into doing a multi-attraction model for their for new brands, and obviously new destinations, new regions where there is not already a Flight Club or Electric Shuffle. So that is one of my first low prediction, is that Red Engine will launch a new concept that blends Flight Club, Electric Shuffle, and a few others social bays into that. All right. The last one here is that laser tag and game. So what we saw in 2025 at IAPA Expo is that if you own a laser tag company, you probably need to create a game floor, an interactive floor, because apparently Pixel Games is gets either partnered or acquired by now I'm going blank on which laser tag company did that. But then, every other fucking laser tag company, you created their own game floor concept or partnered with somebody. So now we've got all these game floors and companies, and tons of people are doing it. And it is, we will see some consolidation here. Or one or two paths will happen, but there'll have to be some differentiation. So either consolidation, and these game floor / laser tag companies will begin to roll together or roll up or consolidate because of the saturation that exists, or the laser tag companies will continue, actually evolve further. Not all of them, but some of them this year will evolve further to develop a larger suite of adventure mission rooms. So taking the game floor concept, and evolving it to have a suite of rooms like Activate, but basically I could put an Activate with having to buy the franchise. I could use all these different systems to put in an Activate, or like a time mission, and it will do that. Triotech recently made their announcement. They didn't actually show any products, but they made the announcement at Expo 2025 that they are moving into the adventure mission room space as well. And so I do think that this will happen, either consolidation or evolution, but they'll have to be differentiated going forward into 2026 at IAP Expo, and we will see that present at IAP Expo. So those are my predictions for 2026. And with that, we are wrap for our LBX show of first LBX show of the new year. And so make sure to stay tuned for Sound Off number 104 on January 6th, coming up here in just a few days. And then that's a wrap. This is Brandon Wiley signing off. Stay tuned and keep kicking.